5% seems like a small figure when you consider what it is, but it depends exactly what you're measuring it against. 5% of the US GDP is a massive amount of money. 5% of a smaller nation's GDP, of course, is a lot less. Do we think that this figure is moving towards giving NATO the kind of defense that NATO needs?
Two things, Mark. First of all, it took 15 years to reach the 2% target that was agreed in 2006, an old NATO summit. So this is number one. Number two, I think it's a way for the Americans to push the Europeans to do more. It's probably a negotiating tactic to at least reach 3.5, which is what the Americans are spending right now. So 5%, I think, is very much of an abstract figure that you see in Monet paintings, but I don't think it will be real. I don't think it will be reality at some point.
To put a frame on that, of course, it's something that really has to come out of a national budget. Of course, one of the problems that many people make within individual states is that when you spend on defense, you're cutting on something else. That's one of the issues that every leader will face.
This is the key problem here right now for Europeans, because the Americans want us to spend 5%, but they also want us to buy American weapons, which are made in America. And so if you want to convince people to spend 5% on defense, you need to tell them that it's also going to create jobs and also going to launch factories in Europe. Taxpayers realize that this is a lot of money. They at least want to have a return, which right now with Trump, we do not really have as Europeans.
And one of those things that we've seen since Trump's come into his second term, of course, that withdrawal from the traditional US role since 1945 onwards of being, if you like, world policeman, coming away from that. Countries realize they need to take more responsibility for their own defense in that sense. Like you say, it could be a real dividend in terms of producing their own arms, producing their own hardware.
I think the last 8 years are going to be perceived as an exception to America's history. I brought a gift with me on this set, George Kennan, who in 1947 said that NATO should be limited to a military assistance model, not a commitment to send troops to Europe by America, because this is something that America had never done before. And I think in many ways, the Americans are going back to that model. This is, I think, what Trump means when he says there are many definitions of Article 5. You know, this is what he said on the plane. I think when he says something like this, it means, I think, you can interpret this as Americans saying, we will not commit troops to Europe, but we will support you logistically and with intelligence.
Article 5 has only ever been invoked once. That was for the terror attacks on New York and Washington. And again, to the aid of the United States. Some people might see that as ironic. Some people might just say, well, that needed to happen when it happened. But what would have happened if the rest of NATO had gone, hang on a minute, we don't want to get involved in this? And that would have gone against the whole spirit of it. And in a sense, that's what Trump's been doing, isn't it, with his language?
George Kennan actually discussed this because from the start, the Americans realized that if America was attacked, Europe could not do so much for America. But America can do a lot in terms of military mass, equipment, technology for Europe. So the relationship was always asymmetrical between the two sides. And it remains so nowadays. Americans do not believe that Europeans are going to intervene in America if they are attacked. Also, Americans also do not really believe that Europeans are going to go to Asia, defend Taiwan, for example, with them. And so I think
Biden, of course, made a commitment to defend Taiwan, whatever happened, didn't he? Joe Biden. Yeah. Of course, that's off the table now.
Oh no, I mean, I think Americans are still very much present there, and I think they're very much present with us as well. America will be there for us. It's just not what we have seen before in the last century. It's going to be a different kind of American commitment that we still have to adjust as Europeans. This is the problem. We're still in a very wobbly kind of stabilization. Trump today stabilized NATO, so this is positive. But it's a very, very unstable stability in many, many ways because the relationship between Europe and America is not clarified. There is still a lot of hypocrisy, and we have no clarity as to who is doing what, who is building what.
One sense is he's still got 1 foot in, 1 foot out. That's the thing that I think people feel really worried about.
Yeah, it's Trump, and let's hope that in 3 years, 4 years, that we'll have a president that will propose a plan to Europe. A 10-year, it sounds
might still be
science
Trump.
fiction. But maybe in 10, 15 years, we'll have an American president saying, okay, This is how we can ensure Europe's deterrence, Europe's security. This is what you do. This is what we do. This is what your companies are doing. This is what our companies are doing. I think when we have that clarity with probably another president, we will feel better and we will be able to plan. Because, Mark, the reason why we cannot do anything in Ukraine right now is because we do not know the value of NATO. We do not know the value of Article 5, which is why we cannot commit, for example, troops to Ukraine at the moment.
And that is a massive NATO border with Russia to defend, right from Finland all the way down. Michael Benhamou, thank you very much for being with us, founder and Executive Director of Europe's War Institute. Your analysis always welcome here at France 24. Thank you, sir. Great to see you. Thank you.